Dot is recording for personal use. I didn't hear what you said.
That smells good.
Quick, we have a hot water dispenser and instant coffee. Okay, so public input, we have Pat Krebs, multi-generation project and native plant area.
Wow.
That's you?
I often come up with ideas that won't go through, but may spark something else that would be better than what I come up with. In June, and multi-generational means working with some of the former or existing Campbelltown residents who are in their 80s, 90s, to be able to get their reminiscence and their understanding about what the community was like in the past. And then perhaps using young people to interview them so that it could be multi-generational. Years ago in another life, I was a school teacher, and that's what we did in our municipality. We took people who were in their late 80s or early 90s, one was approaching 100, very able and lucid and being able to talk about their life and their experiences, and then young people had questions to ask them, and we videoed them. And it became a really exciting project for the township, and for the 4 or 5 people that we interviewed, they felt really good about being able to do that. And so when I left the township, that recordings were there for other people to watch. And we did have the opportunity of the high school having a television station doing video, so that was free. And so my mind's going on with how can we find somebody who would do a video session, and how do we find the men and women who might be willing to participate in doing this kind of thing, which could lead to the Village Square project in the kinds of things we want to have to educate people about Campbelltown. All this happened partly because I spent 6 hours with Richard Brandt, who his family had the Brandt hardware store, and he lived here for his family for many years. And so in June, we went to his home outside of Campbelltown, and his wife also is a Campbelltown person, and learned a great deal about the history of this community from his knowledge and his history of knowing it even before he was born, from learning from his parents and grandparents. And so with that, I thought, man, maybe we could rejuvenate this kind of idea for here and do it during the winter months, perhaps, and find high school students or middle school students who would pose the questions, or maybe scouts or other groups that may be willing to find some students. The other thing I thought about was when we were trying to find someone to do the video for the police bicycle safety video, we weren't sure whether we could use the same lady that we did use. So the Encounter Church has a person who is very much into videoing activities at the church. And I thought, well, maybe I can try that connection to see if this person is still there and would be interested in doing that. So this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, and thinking that maybe we could do that and it would be useful. AARP does have a grant that doesn't require a match. I've sent this to you folks a couple of times over the last couple of years, and it has to be a project that the more it shows different generations valuing it, that maybe we can get some dollars for that Village Square through this AARP grant. The problem with these grants are they show up and they only give you a limited amount of time to complete the application, but the application's online and you can get ready for it and be ready to go when that opportunity strikes. And the Pennsylvania AARP office is in Harrisburg, and I know the gentleman who runs it, and see if we could take a chance to see if we could get that grant. So that was my one little offer or suggestion that we might ponder and maybe make it happen. And the second one is nobody's tending the native area here in the community park, I can tell. So on the south end, Eva Staley has been pulling out ragweed by one after another. And of course, it's so dry now, it's hard to get the roots. And I didn't know she was doing it on the south end because I'm doing it on the north end, because it's just starting to overwhelm some of the plants that are far more valuable that were put there for the purpose of bees and butterflies and hummingbirds. And so at some point, we need some help. The other thing is mulberry trees are starting to invade, and those are harder to get out, but we've got some problems that I know your public works people don't want to get involved in probably or have the time to do. But we've got some great things in that park for natives, but the invasives and the ragweed are taking over. And I understand, Jenna, that Eva asked for help in getting rid of some of the ragweed that she had pulled, and your folks were gracious enough to go over and get it. And I've been piling up all of the stuff I've been pulling up under a tree, but it's still too dry. We need a rain to get the full roots and everything out. Gotta get some out, but not a lot of it. So that's my little boring little two things to bring up. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Jenna, do we have any changes to the agenda? I skipped that.
If we have time this evening, I would like to discuss the DCED meeting I had today.
It was today? I thought it was Thursday.
No.
Bummer. Okay. I have it written on my calendar for Thursday.
Yeah.
11:15.
Yep. Yes, 11:15.
Okay, I'm sorry I missed that.
Must have told
I
you
have
the
it
wrong day.
tomorrow. That or I could have wrote it down wrong. Okay.
So if we have time, I'd like
Okay.
to just give you a rundown quickly of that.
Okay.
But other than that, no other changes.
Okay. And before I forget, we'll meet briefly after this for an exec meeting for a personnel issue. And then we'll move on to 20. Do we want to do the bike rack donation part first? Just because I think
Yeah.
that will be quicker. Are you okay with that, Jack?
Sure.
Okay. I don't have any paperwork with me on it.
And I don't know if I had gotten any. Did you hand me?
I know you gave us an email. Yes. I just
Yeah,
didn't bring it.
I
I had it printed at
sent it
home.
to
I
you.
just didn't.
Dean Oppenbach, the president, sent you a letter.
Yes. And I didn't bring it with me.
I mean, all you're
apologize.
looking for is an exception of the donation, correct?
And Jenna, did you reach out to the highway department to see if they had a preference as to where it's placed so that it would make their work
We had a
not
quick
so
discussion
complicated?
about it, and then Jack and I kind of had a quick also discussion. There is, right when you're pulling, where did it go? You pull into the park here, the what do you call it, paved parking lot is here. So right on the other side of the walking path would probably be the best place. Otherwise, at somewhere
The
around
gravel
here.
section?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This might be a good option also, but they're, either or. Maybe that actually might be better. Right off of the walking path here. Or the main entrance coming off of there, we could place it there. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for the crews to
mow and
maintain,
trim around and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm wondering with this being the field here, that hopefully it's not gonna get run into by somebody chasing a ball or something.
Well, that and I was envisioning like grandma or grandpa who can't walk sitting in the car and trying to
Yeah.
watch little ones play.
So it
and a
might be
bike rack
better
being in
right
the way.
off of this gravel area here.
I'd make a motion, we accept the donation of the bike rack and leave the placement up to the staff.
Highway crew. I will second that. Do you have any questions? Concerns?
I'll just contact E&E Metal Fab to manufacture it at their convenience because they have big projects and little bike racking get squeezed into those.
Mhm.
And also tell the organization that you are appreciative of it and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But they will deliver in that great big truck, and we'll just have to find a couple people to help take it off.
Okay.
Thanks for your hard work on that. Appreciate it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I just wanted to write this down here. 1 second.
What was the name of the welding company that's supplying it?
E&E Metal Fab Incorporated on 16th Street in the city of London.
And who is paying it, or are they donating it?
Lebanon Valley Bicycle Coalition.
Okay.
think it'll be 1,070,
Okay.
because we get a discount.
All right, thank you. So, moving on to the budget.
In front of you, to make it easier, from workshop or from meeting after meeting, I put a book together. Current draft copy of the budget is the first thing. The next thing is the highways request. Following tab is the police department's request. The other information, tax rates for local municipalities, I've included in there for Lebanon and Dauphin, just because we're right here next to Derry Township. The balances from each account for January 1st of 2019, the current balances as they exist now, and the last tab would be the fire department's information.
Okay. So Jenna and I have spent I think we have 2 meetings together,
We have this.
trying to just go over some preliminary stuff. Last year, we just went page by page. Are you in agreement of doing that again, Jack, or do you have a different method that you'd like to
I don't, I
attempt?
mean, I haven't, this is the first that I've seen the,
Looking at it?
yeah, information.
Okay. So,
Excuse me,
yes,
are we able to get a copy of that so that we can follow along?
yes, I think so. Did you have any? Yeah, great.
Some numbers have not been supplied because I just don't have them. Other numbers, some items have not been included, because it's up to board to add them or.
And obviously, this is our first go around here.
Work in progress.
All right, so I would suggest then we start at page 2. The revenue is what it is, really.
The current year, property tax, I will be getting a paper from the county that tells us exactly what all the property is worth in the township, and then I figure it out from there how much. So that's where that number comes in. So once I get that paper, it's usually late October I receive that.
Okay.
A lot of these numbers are going to be October that we're gonna receive, like the amount that it's gonna cost for the township's insurances.
Is that why the number's 20,000 and it's 975, 2019 actual?
That's,
Are you on page 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
what are you referring to?
On page 1 at the very top, it says 20,000 in the property
2020
taxes.
budget's 20,000.
Right, because I only have the 20,000 in there at property tax right now.
Flip to page
These
2.
that is like a quick synopsis of what is contained within, so the revenue, if you look at property tax and then in the actual expenditure or the revenue, you'll find an item like property tax. So right now I only have the 20,000 in that. So the spreadsheet will calculate the front page. The front page is just like a quick view.
It's a compilation of everything else.
So
it's
everything
900
that's under public safety is going to be included in that total number.
So why is it so different? 2019 actual is almost $1 million in 2020's.
Because I don't have that number on the second page. Look at the second page. That first page is fed by the information
Right.
contained within. I only have that 20,000 loaded into that document right now because I don't have that number from the county yet.
This in here.
I'm well aware, I'm just not sure, like, we have to have some kind of idea. I'm not, why 20,000 if we don't have that?
Oh, that's the delinquent. You mean, why don't we have a number in here, or why 20,000?
Yeah,
We don't have a number in here yet because the county hasn't given us the numbers for what we'll potentially collect for 2020,
so we're still budgeting 20,000 in delinquent.
just from history.
Right. Historically, 2016, we got 24,000, 17, we had 16, a little over 16,000, 18, we had 19,000. Last year was an odd year with 28,000.
Are you saying you're concerned about the 20,000 number, or because there's no number in the
Because
current year
there's
yet?
none. So, I mean, the way
I don't have the number 2 place in there. I don't wanna put a number in there until I have an accurate figure.
and when do we expect that?
October, from county supplies that document to me. They give the valuation of all the properties in the township, and then I figure it out what the millage is and how much we will receive.
Potentially get from that.
So I don't have that, like I said, this is very early on. We usually start this process, I guess around now, October. I know you and I start early, but then usually at our first meeting. So I'm not every number is going to be in this document at all.
So carrying on to page 2 there in the local enabling, we're missing some numbers there also.
Same reason.
The cable, oh, we just didn't receive the last payment yet for the cable TV?
Correct.
Is that why that's only 64%? Okay.
This is actually the franchise agreement with the township from the cable companies. There's a 1% that is on your actual bill that comes. That's what that is.
The rent of the building, should we tack that down less yet? Since we
I
only,
think so.
you wanna take it, how much do we charge to rent the room?
25 for a for-profit
Profit or-
entity.
Do we wanna just put it at 50? Or keep?
Probably, because I know that there's two, I want to say homeowners associations that use it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that down to 50.
The municipal authority agreement on page 3, we increased that 3% because why?
That is, years ago, the municipal authority had an agreement that the township would take care of certain items for them, and in exchange, they would pay the employees to take care of it. That agreement is generally increased the same amount as the employee's pay rate is increased. So it's an average of 3%.
Gotcha.
Just the rule of thumb that they have
Okay.
done year after year.
And that fee, just thinking out loud here, that fee is not tied to their salary though. It's a flat.
Right, that fee includes the municipal authority to have office space here.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying that the fee that they actually pay us is in no way tied to the salaries.
No, it's
Of
just
those.
how they've
It's a
done it.
flat rate.
Yeah, they've done it after year. The numbers for state aid come from the state. They give me a base number per employee. And that's why I have my little note on the side that that's how that's figured out.
What's PERDA?
It's for the public utility, real estate in the township.
Who pays it?
The state sends it to us. I don't know if they in turn send a bill to the utilities or if it's on their bill and it gets sent to the municipality that way. But they send us a paper every year of how much property the township has for that type of thing, and then they pay it from there. The liquor license has gone up, revenue as far as that's concerned. The only thing that I think Faith and I were kind of trying to figure out was that Redner's had that little cafe open. Other than that, I don't know what else it would,
Why it went up so
why
much?
it went up so much.
Wouldn't the sons have transferred in that period?
No, they already had one.
That didn't
Yeah, but
change. The Suns didn't change unless it's the Mount Gretna Brewery.
Is there a fee paid when it's transferred?
It's a new, when a new one comes to the township every year, it depends on how many are in your township, so it's Mount Gretna Brewery, the beer distributor, and the Rising Sun were the three. And then all of a sudden it just increased, so I'm not even sure why.
I didn't know if it was like if we got paid when it transferred.
No, it's a yearly fee that they,
Although you'd think now, well, I guess that will depend next year because the Brass Rail doesn't have their deli anymore, so that might change. How that works, I don't know
Yeah, I
the
don't know
ins and
how
outs of that.
works either. Foreign fire is given to us by the state.
So on page 4, we put in there the transfer from Fund 31, which is from the capital reserve, the police car, because we budgeted that this year. In this 2019 budget, we set aside $20,000 for a future police car purchase. And the police are requesting a police car this year, so we were moving the $20,000 from the 2019 to put towards purchasing the police car. Estimate, or what they're intending to purchase, is $45,000. So we had to show somewhere to pull that out of capital reserve if we intend to do that. The health insurance number is also something you'll get in October, Jenna.
Yes, October 10th we'll have that.
The motor, I'm sorry, I moved on to general government. Are you on that also? Okay, so the motor vehicle, Jenna, the $50 there, is that the township, I forget what that is, an
Yeah.
Explorer or something? Okay. Is our, the phone internet I see we have a split internet there then too with the little note that says combine it down there. Do we have it separated now?
We do.
It looks like we do.
They're two separate services. The phone is by, I can't remember the name of that company.
Yeah. We have the phone plan and they service the phones all through there, but
Right.
then
And then the internet,
what did you call it?
June, yeah, JOON, yep. And then the internet is the cable or the
Is that
Comcast
Comcast?
bill, yeah. So we can keep it separate, it doesn't,
Well, that brings me to,
this category should not be called phone internet monthly, it should just be called phone monthly.
how long are we contracted with them?
3 years.
Okay. And I know we talked about, we need to figure out who we want to put out for RFPs this year, which is kind of a separate topic, but not really, with budgeting. Did we want to maybe talk about that in October when Bill's here? Jack, thoughts on that?
Well, if you're gonna put it out, include it in the budget, it almost ought to go out as soon as possible. Wouldn't you think?
I have to look and see when our contract is up with that company also.
Well, as I was saying, anything that we're gonna consider, we should try to,
Do it sooner rather than later?
yeah, cause then we would know the cost.
Well, I just know we do it every few years and I don't remember doing it since I've
Or-
been here.
The phone or the internet, we only have access to Comcast for the building. Verizon, for whatever reason, would go to the other side of the street, but they would not come to our building, the new building. So we couldn't get Verizon for the building for
I remember that being a
the
huge,
actual internet supplier, but the actual phone supplier was, the other company was Comcast, and they wanted like 3 times, it was like $900 a month that it would have been through them, and we had to have their phones and whatever, so I'm not sure, we can put one out, I just don't know where we're going to get, what other company.
well, and I'm even thinking, like, we talked about,
The
the
pension.
actuary servicing place, the pension, the kind of an overall, we did insurance last year, didn't we?
Yeah, engineering 2 years ago, solicitor, I have not done since I've been here, that's been 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
so it's up to you.
Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah,
But, I mean, it's due
probably something-
diligence to do it, to make sure we're
Yeah,
getting
I
the
mean,
right
I don't wanna do
stuff.
everything every year, but some of it's probably time, and, we could, maybe it'd be helpful to have a list of,
Who we contract out,
like,
for
these
sure.
are the, professional services that we get, that don't have to be bid, then maybe we could set that as a set cycle, hey, unless there's an issue, we're going to renew, we're gonna revisit this, engineering every 2 years, solicitor every 2, that we, would know in advance that this is how we're gonna,
Lay it out.
yeah, unless there's an issue.
Okay, should we get a list together then for October meeting?
Well, it seemed like a good idea to me.
Are you okay with getting a list together for us, Jenna? Whatever we contract out? And we can look over that, I guess.
So you want-
Maybe a list of when the last time we looked for an RFP.
So you want pension,
Anything that falls under that no bid,
okay,
I don't know what that means, no bid, like somebody
well,
that
those are
doesn't have
professional
to.
services, they don't have to be bid, like, we don't have to take the cheapest solicitor, we don't have to take the
Gotcha.
cheapest, the professional services, you can use whoever you want.
Okay,
If it's highway work or whatever, that has to be,
bid it out, and then
And
you
you
have to
gotta
take the
take the low
lowest.
bidder.
Yes, okay, now I'm following you.
so pension, solicitor, engineer,
building inspections.
What
oh,
else?
Commonwealth. Okay.
I feel like I need to look at the list that we approve in our reorganization meeting.
That would be helpful.
The bond company, is that, who do we do that through?
Insurance, health insurance.
Okay. That's through Bowman now?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, sorry, got kind of sidetracked there. So capital purchases was to include,
I couldn't remember, and for some reason I didn't have it, so I was looking at notes.
it was to include, you were looking at putting in a new software program to share with the municipal authority. One that works a little more efficiently. Did we, when we looked at that company and that software, I believe you told me that would also include pay time, like a,
It
or is
could
that
have an
not
app.
in that?
That could have, they're called modules, there were all kinds that you could add on.
But that wasn't included in
I
the
don't believe
original?
it
Okay.
was.
Was there anything else? I think there were a couple laptops in there also, correct?
Yep, computers.
How many were we looking? Was there 2 on the admin side? And chief, was there 6 on the police side? Am I remembering those numbers correctly?
It's only 2 desktops. Potentially, though, there's 4 in-car computers if we can't upgrade those to Windows 10. We're trying to do that, but haven't been successful so far.
Okay, I think I don't want to jump around too much, I'm sorry.
But that wasn't, those numbers, I didn't get a quote for that, so those numbers don't appear anyplace.
I have 4 on my side that require replacement.
Okay, and 3, in your notes, the computer upgrades, a desktop for each secretary and a patrol desk, and a docking station for chief.
Right.
But that was on the police side, but you had 2, Jenna, on your side?
What did I just say?
I'm sorry.
4?
You said 4, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so 4 computers for admin. And the software was $30K for admin, and it was gonna be split $30K with the municipal authority for that. Okay. Any other questions on page 5? Moving on to page 6.
On page 5 for the capital the SNIPA grant, do you have any idea after going through that area, any costs associated with planting the trees and the riparian buffer?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, I think you said that you were going out to that area like 2 weeks ago or something, and where 2 was going to be there. Do
We
you
did
have?
not get to that area. Yeah, we had to cut it short as far as that, but we were there, but they were out. You were out. I thought they were out by you.
Oh, I went home.
Oh, I think they saw you walking.
So you don't have any idea how much that's going to cost?
The whole grant we're getting is going to be used, the whole 90,000 is going to be used.
Just for that area?
Plant that area, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 6,
Those tax collection numbers,
Mhm.
they were just handed down by county. I just saw Glenda had them
okay,
in
so
the
we
checks
just,
that you'll have to sign, but I'll just have to plug those in, so we just
Okay.
got those today.
so municipal building here, we talked about a dehumidifier. Did we ever get an estimate on what that's gonna,
No, I can get,
cause we currently, what did we budget last year in capital reserve for that?
so the humidifiers?
Well, no, we just set aside, remember we set aside last year a certain amount just to have stuff for long-term
Right, we did.
building
the
maintenance,
cell phone-
40,000.
We did the cell phone booster for capital, is that what you're referring to?
No, I don't think so. Unless we didn't take that out of capital reserve for the cell phone booster, did we? We set
No, we
aside in the
had a-
capital
yeah, we had
reserve.
capital purchase on the previous page? That was on the previous page.
Okay. Last year, we put aside money for long-term maintenance and capital reserve. We put 40,000 aside.
Okay.
And I was just wondering if we wanted to somehow account for that, because I'm assuming the dehumidifier is gonna be a pricey. I mean, I don't know how much they cost. Do you have any
I
idea?
have the slight, not in a building like this, have the slightest.
This idea. Anyways, just food for thought, we might wanna see about taking it from there, but I guess, can you get us some quotes on how much that's gonna be? Cause our budgeting for 4,000 for building maintenance is probably not going to cover that expense.
Probably not.
Did you move on to the next page? I
I
saw
was
you peeking
jumping-
ahead.
I was jumping around a bit.
That's fine, just making sure.
One question led me to another.
I hear you. So moving on to page 7 then, unless you had a question on
No?
page 6. So the police department, these salaries are figured for the 4% for 2020, yes?
Correct.
Okay.
410, 183 isn't correct.
Oh, it's
410,
supposed to be 38,000.
180. Supposed to be what?
38,000.
Shouldn't it be lower than the,
No, the overtime, that included the 13,000 increase because of the,
Just, let me see what I had here. I had, when we figured it out earlier, was that yesterday? I had 37,440 for overtime and 33,400 for overtime shift differential. Am I looking at the wrong one?
No?
Oh, the reimbursable overtime shift differential, it looks like it got moved.
that's what happened. The regular overtime needed to increase because of the holiday pay that's in the current contract.
Right.
And the
So it was like
4%
13,000 that's gonna
increase in,
cost.
yes, so 38,000.
And then it's actually when you're doing the overtime, or when you're doing the calculations for the increase, it's not just the 3%, you have to include the longevity in that calculation. So it's actually 5% that you include. So whatever the category was last year, you multiply that by 5% and then add the 13 or whatever it was that we figured.
For
that-
just the
For that
overtime,
holiday overtime pay.
okay.
So I'll fix that.
Well, the overtime's good, the overtime shift, is that what you're talking
The
about?
overtime is not good, it's only, am I reading this wrong? I only have 38.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting, yep, I need a piece of paper.
I'll look through.
All right,
I'll look at
yes.
those two numbers and make sure they're accurate.
38,000, okay, gotcha.
But the reimbursable, we're combining those two. And that's one that I have to manually figure out what was actually reimbursed or what was work that was reimbursable.
Yeah, I apologize, I kept looking at the clerk.
I need a ruler or something.
Yeah, I just grabbed a piece of paper and did that because my eyes were not tracking correctly.
it eats up the ink, but if you print every other line gray, that's what I do when I have a long. It does eat up the ink, but
Yeah.
it makes it a whole lot easier to follow.
I'm looking at that next time. The cell phone category is something we might want to visit. Currently, they have 2 flip phones with no data package on them. They have expressed interest in switching out the 2 flip phones to smartphones, but at the $1,000 a month, it's only $83 a month.
To accomplish that.
Yeah, I don't know that that's gonna get to smartphone.
One of those is what, like the patrol phone, if you will, and what's the other one?
Right now,
Yeah.
they're both the same, but they're both patrol phones. But we, as we added a couple officers over the years and cars to put them in, we didn't add any cell phones. So there's 2 cars that don't have phones in them.
So would you still keep the 2 flip phones and then just have 2?
No.
Or would you just move?
We'd like to have 4 smartphones, not just for calling, but for the apps and photos. Like right now, officers sometimes take photos with their cell phone because they have it right there. That's not ideal. Theoretically, the entire phone could be subpoenaed in court. So we'd like to get 4 phones, and with maps and all that, there's just so much more that we could be doing. They could replace other equipment.
You can't do that. Can't do that with your flip phone. Are they jitterbugs?
It takes 7 minutes
Just
to
has 3
type
buttons.
responding. But had Scott said something about getting them for highway?
Not at all. They don't have phones.
Okay, I thought he said someone has.
Sewer has 1 phone that it's the call, the on-call
Pass around.
person. They just pass it around. They have no.
Okay, I just wondering if we could have a larger number and get it.
Can we get a number, like an accurate number of how much it would cost to move to 4 smartphones? And, I mean, yes.
Would that give every officer a smartphone then?
No. That would just be in the car in which whomever's on call for that
It's
car.
just the one in the car.
Mhm.
Because my own personal opinion, every officer should have access to a smartphone.
Well, they do, it's a personal one,
That's not right either.
but that's not what.
That's not right either. Shouldn't have to
Oh.
use your own personal phone.
Oh, no, I know that.
Yeah, I would say we get a cost on that. I think that at least whatever the potential number of officers on duty there is should.
Well, how many
Should be.
officers on duty do we have at a time? There's a crossover at one point where there's 2 on, right?
Probably, there's times when there's 3 if nobody's on vacation or training or anything.
Special events or something.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty minimal cost. I'm shocked we're talking about flip phones, to be honest with you.
Well, then it comes to what is a good number to have. I mean, is 4 too many? Should there only be 3 cell phones?
Well,
I say get the cost and then they can determine how much it's worth talking about.
yeah, because we've run into, we used to have 2 speed timing stopwatches and 2 breathalyzers. And when you're moving them around and signing them in and out, it's so much more efficient and it's better for accountability to have 1 in each car. Just have each car outfitted the same way. So it's kind of.
So whatever car they jump in, that equipment
They
is
know
standard,
how to
it's in there.
Yeah, yeah. Same with the AEDs. We used to have like two AEDs in the most frequently used patrol cars. But if you hopped in the third one and for some reason didn't
Sure,
grab your, I just want them all to be uniform.
that makes sense. Okay, can we get an accurate number then? For 4?
And if they're using their own personal phone, are they paying for their own apps to use for work? Like if you
Yeah.
need an app to see.
It's their choice. Nobody's required to use their phone. But granted, it makes the
Right.
job easier. There's some
Right.
really neat stuff out there, but that's why I would want department phones so we can start doing some of that stuff. And, guys were coming to me with ideas or when they discover a pretty cool app, but we had nowhere to put it for they'd share it with other guys in the department, but if we had department phones, then we could get those outfitted with useful apps as well.
The contracted services is slightly over because of a lightning strike that the Township building took out some of our equipment.
Insurance intake?
They did, didn't they? I think they did. Yeah, because
They
but I still have to
confirmed.
put it in that category. The refund check goes under another section for revenue. But, yeah, because they asked what day it was, and I thought it was one day, and they were like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Oh, no, it was Thursday." And they said, "Yep, we just pulled the data," and they said there was a lightning strike on your building that day. I don't know how they know that, but they did.
So the capital purchases included patrol car, the radio repeater for Township building, which was 25,000, a copier, which was 6,000.
Included 2 copiers.
I'm sorry, yes, 2 copiers. I know on this request that you gave us, Chief, you had the ventilation hood installation. Are you intending to use that this year since it's in the budget then?
I'm going to try to.
Okay,
Regarding the radio repeater, 25,000 was the estimate they gave to cover the whole building. It'd be about 20,000 for just our side, but we go throughout the whole building, so I put that number in. I mean, if we're going to do it, I don't think we want to have dead spots remaining where officers can't pick up.
yeah, and what, do you split this room in half? Is this room included in your 20? Like what?
I don't know, he didn't
That
even
seems
come here.
silly.
It was just a rough estimate he gave.
Okay. It included your computer upgrades. Computer, car, radio, copiers, okay. Anything else on page 7 for now, Jack, that you want to?
Nope.
Okay. Page 8, fire protection. So for the township donation, there's someone here going over to Blue Side? Is that normal at 8 at night?
It could be if an officer may be aware that they're.
Okay, good. Just didn't want them to be standing over there expecting something. All right, so typically we give 5K to each department so that they can do a recognition for each, or I think you guys went to Knoebels one year or something, right? And Campbelltown did another.
Just back up 1 second there.
Yep.
We should get a quote to include, I have no idea how this ever happened, that the township only covers the liability on the trucks. I think it's the most ridiculous thing.
I completely
We have
agree.
millions of dollars worth of fire equipment.
I talked to Jeff Bowman about that, and he said when we're preparing for our renewal,
Yeah.
he will include everything, and I already got Campbelltown's trucks to include theirs, because they were actually gonna go the reverse, where they were gonna take over the entire bill
Yeah.
and put the comp and collision and liability on it,
Yeah,
and then just have us pay the bill. But I said that we were looking at it the reverse,
yeah,
that we
whichever
would
way
just
it's
take the
cheaper doesn't
bill.
make any sense to me. It just doesn't, never made any sense why it's separated. Not sure how that,
I have no idea how that happened either. I don't know
probably.
if that was a pre-fire tax thing.
Oh yeah, it's
or-
been that way. I
Yeah, I
have
don't
20
know.
plus years and it's been that way ever since I was here.
Yeah, so Bowman is aware, or Jeff from Bowman's is aware,
Okay.
that when we look to, everything's October, when we look to renew in October, he's gonna include those. So I do,
So this number could potentially change then?
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. It'll just go to a different category, so I wanted to account for it somewhere. You know what I mean? It might just go on the township side of it, but.
So last year, we did 5K each department,
For the recognition specifically.
yes, and then we put aside the number that we budgeted
It
was
was
to
the
cover the
SCBA.
SCBA's. And since that came in lower because we received a grant, we then had 30,000 this year for each department left over, correct?
We budgeted for the 30,000 last year.
I was gonna say, I didn't think that was a result of, I thought that was a separate,
It was the three things. It was the recognition. I just took out the SCBA year out of that
Okay.
category name. It was the 30,000 each department, and the SCBA gear was
Was
in
it
that.
SCBA, was that,
Scuba, whatever.
I know,
yeah,
but was that
SCBA, yeah.
90,000 or what were we?
I actually have to check this number. I wonder if Glenda, we have the tax information here, but I feel like the bill was supposed to be larger than that.
I was gonna say, I thought ours was 137,000 alone.
But I don't know that we paid.
Right, you didn't pay all.
We had a certain number, I feel like it was
Right.
like 90, but I could be wrong. I guess it doesn't really matter, but we budgeted this year 30,000 for each department, the SCBA's, whatever that number was,
Yeah.
and then 5,000 each. I guess we can figure that out. That's
Yeah.
really not that.
And if you wanna keep giving that
No,
extra
it's-
30,000 each year, I'm sure Lauren or Campbell.
Lauren's gonna ask- Lauren's
would not
gonna
be
ask for
against
it.
that at all.
It is 57,000
57?
for the SCBA.
SCBA, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So that is right.
All right, so this year, I guess we need to figure out from the departments if they need monies.
Lauren was using that 30 for the ramp pipe project there. Once we replace the pipe, we're going to repave or concrete the ramp from there out.
Okay.
And it's, like, the cost is in the 65,000 neighborhood, so we were hoping to roll over whatever was unused and get the same amount next year. Please.
Well, I don't think you can roll over, we would just have to budget
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
60.
saying, whatever is left of that, you know, we're not looking for, we were kinda looking at, okay, we got 30 this year, 30 next year, we can do that project with the 60,000, so.
Any idea what Campbelltown was looking
Same
at?
thing, getting a lot of cracks in the parking lot, a lot of blacktop peeling up, so at least trying to patch and seal and do something there.
Are you
'Cause I-
using
'cause I-
any of your 30 this year?
That's,
Is that
because
what
we
you-
had this discussion a couple weeks ago. I didn't know if you guys wanted us to use that 30,000 before the year was up, so it's like, we need to start working on this if this has to be spent by the end of the year.
Well, I think good budget practice is using it in the year in which it's budgeted, because it's not like you just roll over what's not used.
The problem is then you get the use it or lose it
Yes, mentality also,
mentality,
I
and
get
It
it.
gets wasted,
Yes.
and we looked at it as like, there's,
Spending it for the sake of spending.
Spending
yeah,
it, yes.
there wasn't enough to do what we really wanted to do with it, so.
Okay, well then I would prefer not to say, well, let's roll it over. I would prefer to say, let's budget what you guys need. You know what I mean?
Whatever terminology you would like.
So you're looking at a project at lawn that's
60.
60,000?
Well, yes, so yeah, if we're taking what was last year, and this year, yes, 60.
Well, how much is it? Is it 62,000? I mean, what are you guys looking to do?
Well, like I say, we're gonna replace the pipe out front, and then we're going to pave or concrete, basically from the bays out.
Oh, Well, I just don't want you guys not to do it because you're short
That's why we didn't.
5,000. If we budget 60,000,
Budget 60, I'm fairly certain we can get it done, but I'll,
okay. I
That's
just don't
fine,
want to
too.
budget 60 and then you're like, oh, well, we'll wait because we need another 10 to do
Yeah.
it. Do you have any idea what you were intending to spend?
I think they're gonna try to get estimates, but as far as I know, nothing came out.
Okay.
Because I mean, I don't know, if it's like the township and you can only blacktop until a certain date, you know
I'm
what I mean?
sure.
So I don't
Yeah.
know.
no, there's no liquid fuels money, so you can,
But don't the plants
do.
close down?
it all depends on the weather. We paved between Christmas and New Year's already.
Oh, really? I thought it was weather
They close
dependent.
down.
Oh, it is weather dependent, but, I mean, every year, I mean, look at it, it's 85 and 88 degrees this weekend it's supposed to be, so
Yeah.
like I said, it all depends. I mean, there's been years where like Thanksgiving, like, done, and then there's years, you know, that, like I said, we've paved between, York County, there's a plant open all year round. They do whatever it takes to keep it open, so. Now, granted, you do not wanna be paving your parking lot in January if you can help it, but. But it would most certainly probably take place next year. I mean, if you're not, you don't have it in the works now, it probably isn't gonna happen this year.
So I guess, can we ask the fire did they give a budget yet? Did either of the companies?
I've reached out and told them exactly what I needed, and I actually included a copy of these pages and said I need to know, and I also added those 2 blocks that we had talked about for their reserve.
Okay. Do we want to send another email and ask what projects they may have that aren't allowable to be used with fire tax money?
Okay.
That would be the driveway of lawn and whatever pavement stuff. And then we can figure out get a more accurate township donation. Does that sound like a fair way to handle it, Jack?
It does.
Okay. Let me put my
The other thing I
ruler
had in
back
that is, and I think it was removed before I was supervisor, but I know I was asked the question. We used to give Mastersonville Fire Company and the Mount Gretna Fire Company, I think the number was 500 each. I don't know if you remember talking about this.
I do remember talking about it. I don't know off the top of my head what the number actually
I
was.
think it was 500 and 500, and at the time, I said, I have no idea why, you know, it was. I did sort of know with Mount Gretna's because when the fire tax came in, the area, the timbers used to be in Mount Gretna, so they would solicit donations, and then they theorized that they weren't, but I was asked by both Mount Gretna and Mastersonville 2 years after it was removed, why it was removed, and both of them, thinking maybe they conspired, but both of them gave their same reason, that they provide QRS services to South Londonderry, so something to consider.
The reason it was removed was because we answer their calls, they answer our calls, so.
Right, I remember
They
having-
don't give us 500, I remember having this
Yeah.
specific conversation, was that why are we doing this when it just seemed.
We reciprocate to them, so unless I'm missing something. Is the
I-
QRS a different,
Lawn Fire
Level of
Company does not provide a
service?
QRS service, but
there is a lawn
we have
EMS,
we have an ambulance. I have to look though, because we don't have any first due in Raffo Township. So that would be, I guess that's the way they're looking at it, like they have first due area in South Londonderry as QRS. Mount Gretna does certainly, I mean, they respond routinely to, you know, the
And lawn
timbers.
EMS has no first due that way,
In Mastersonville's territory, no.
but we do in
When do
Gretna.
they respond first due for QRS?
Mastersonville, there's a tiny little piece up, is that off of?
$500 worth.
'Cause I know we've been out on Harvest Road already.
Yeah, there's a tiny little piece up off of Church. So,
What are your thoughts on
I mean, Mount Gretna, I sort of see, and they cover, I mean, Mount Gretna does cover a lot of times. I mean, there's times we can't get to Mount Gretna, like, you know, the nuisance calls, trees down, and Mount Gretna will respond even if they're not dispatched. Like, we don't, what we consider the nuisance, you know, trees down and stuff like that, we don't dispatch Mount Gretna. Like, now, if there's any life safety that comes with it, they're automatically dispatched because, quite frankly, they're closer and they're gonna beat us there. But they'll respond even if they hear it, like, you know, their chief or whatever, you know, the trees, it's the stuff they're not dispatched to and assist. So if we're gonna consider it, I might consider it to Mount Gretna, but I'd have to dig a little till next time on the Mastersonville one. I'm not sure where that comes into play. I don't think that our ambulance has any first due there. I don't think that we receive any money from RAFO. So I'm not sure.
Okay. It just, the conversation when we initially had it just seemed to me like we go there, they come here.
Yeah,
Why
I
are we,
remember
why
sitting-
are we giving them
I
money?
remember
They're
giving-
not giving us money.
I remember giving him input.
So, I mean, unless there's a strong argument.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
I'll look into it and provide more information.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. While I'm thinking of it, I'm gonna just mark in the capital reserve, a vehicle. I don't know, do we need to start looking at putting some money aside for the vehicle that the zoning officer uses? And I'm just gonna make a little note to when we get there. Thinking about that. Anything else on page 8? Did you move on already?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. The numbers for the emergency management you get from John, correct?
I've reached out to him, he
Okay.
said he would supply something.
Okay. The public works and salary. That's the salary of others. Did you do a 3% on that, or is that the municipal authority and they're going to set that?
I have to look, that number is obviously not correct.
Yeah. Even the public works director,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
pretty
know
sure
where-
he doesn't want to get paid less next year.
We could try.
That might not go over
We
very
have to
well.
give it to Mastersonville.
Yeah, go over there and get it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that.
Okay.
Are we on 10?
Yes, I moved on to 10. I saw you had question marks here. I'm assuming we just don't have answers on
Right.
what those numbers are. Because I know we talked about the lubricants they buy every so many years.
Buy a big bulk.
We just need to know
Is this the year?
if, yeah.
we did go over the small tool purchases, we dropped it down to 500, and at our, department head meeting on Tuesday, had a conversation with Brian, and I was like, what exactly, you know, we had it up to 2,000 at one point, and, you know, they were using it. I said, what exactly are you purchasing with that? I guess they were changing out at one point the, like the electric drills and all the battery operated stuff, because the batteries weren't charging any longer and stuff like that. He would like that category bumped back up to where it was. And I could talk to, Bill Durrell comes back on Monday. Could have a conversation with him.
I mean, in small tools, you don't get a whole lot for $500.
I guess the thought was, you know, if they're spending $2,000, it should be a budgeted item or an item, but yeah, if it's a, you know, a Sawzall or whatever, they're more than five, or they're more than
No, and I'm not saying, I
three
mean,
pieces
maybe,
are gonna go out.
I guess.
maybe
are the
we
cons-
specify that it, hey, a small tool, like in my operation, small tool $500 and under. So it might have $10,000 in the budget for small tools, but, you know, if it's more than five, you know, just cause that, it doesn't mean you go out and buy a $10,000 tool because it's in the budget. We should maybe just specify that that category is small tools, less than whatever.
$500 each item or
Right.
something?
Okay.
Like, I was envisioning small tools, like, what does that
Wrenches and
mean?
sockets and, yeah, that's what we were trying to get a handle over. I said $2,000, that's a lot of small tools.
Yeah.
And in our minds, it was, you know, wrenches and sockets and whatever.
Well, and like, there's another section where they have purchases for blowers and weed whackers,
That's
and,
equipment,
Right.
see, that makes more sense to you. Yeah,
it's not a tool.
that's not a tool. I guess it depends on your trade though, doesn't
It
it?
does.
I guess that's
Could
where
be a
it came
tool
in.
for the,
Nah, you don't use it to work on something else.
Okay.
alright
So am I
then.
bumping it back to 2,000? And then just letting them know?
I think that would be realistic
Okay.
and.
With the
you know,
caveat of,
Yeah, a small tool is a $500 less.
But if they didn't use their budget for this year,
well, they're at 970
Yeah.
right now.
out of 2,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
But historically, they have used more than the 2,000.
Did we determine the electricity is now connected to this building and that's where it's paid from now?
Right, that's why we don't have anything budgeted. We used to have two separate electric bills, so I'm gonna remove that category altogether off the,
Is the telephone just a portion of the entire bill? or what?
yes, each department is charged their portion, the police department's charged for their phone.
Building maintenance, do they have any projects over there that they're intending for next year? I know the big thing was the heat lights, but that should have been this
Oh,
year,
yeah,
right?
that should have all been, I'll check. I know the lighting was done, I'm not sure about the heating.
Okay. I just remember that's why we bumped it up so
Mhm.
pricey this year, was to get that done. Okay.
Now, the capital purchases that they requested in your list, sorry, the second tab, the next tab has the 2020 list. And chicken scratch after the item that they requested, any item 430, 740. Should be, or that's what their wish list items were.
Well, they had a higher wish list than what we put in the budget.
Right, that's what I wanted to point out, that the only items that are listed there were the ones that made it from the wish list.
So,
There was talk at one point when we were replacing or fixing the old backhoe, Jack.
Yeah.
There was talk about fixing it to get it through the, another year, and then possibly look at trading it in for a skid loader. I talked to Scott, and he said the municipal authority may go halvesies on it, but they're not, Scott's not 100% sure on that, because they only use it to clean out their reed beds and random projects. So they said they would not get the 50% usage out of it, but that they would contribute something to it, maybe not the 50%.
But you're gonna have a hard time selling me that project.
Yeah, I said I need to know.
well, when we talked about it, we went back to just renting
Yeah, that's why
one.
we pulled those rental numbers out separate, like, there's no way that it
Justifies it.
And even this year, what they rented it for, with what we talked about in the department head meetings, that may even diminish even further, so.
Right. The other thing is we are keeping track of all the invoices and maintenance and repairs for each piece of equipment at the request of the board. So we do have those documents as well. I don't know that I've heard anything else about the backhoe, the second one, or the older one, since it's been repaired, so.
So when Jenna and I went through, we pared down because they had, several things on here to replace if needed, and so we chunked down some of that price because I think last year they got some new leaf blowers and such. So to replace one every year didn't seem necessary to put in the budget. Unless you think otherwise, then we can bump that back up.
What's I see the truck replacement, the 112,000, 2021. Who's okay with it? Is that with those notes?
Those are my notes.
Okay.
I talked to Scott, it was okay to look forward in 2021 and not look to replace it this year. Because at that time, we had the conversation and Scott mentioned that they fixed it and they haven't heard any complaints. Well, right after we had that discussion, he came back and said that the rear needs to be replaced or should be replaced. And that's about $6,000. So is it, I don't know, I guess this thing has been a problem. Brian had mentioned at the meeting that it's been a problem since we got it.
That's what everybody says when they want something new.
Right, yeah.
What
that
year
is one
is the
that we
one that
had.
they're looking at getting replaced? What year is that one? The one they're,
It's not that old. It wasn't,
More important with me with age is use, like, that's what I said about keeping track of the miles anyway, like, if it's, I don't really care if it's old, if we don't, I just don't see the mileage being.
right.
There's 5 guys there's that many trucks, how much are we driving them?
can we pull a report from this year on mileage and repairs and such, so that way?
Well, if he already agreed to 2021, we can push that conversation off, but.
Well, I'm just thinking.
That was
like,
before they're saying that the rear, I had this conversation with him, he's like, you know what, we fixed it, it seems that I haven't had any problems or complaints about it. And then right after Scott and I talked about it, then at our department head meeting, Brian said that it's making a noise now and he thinks it's gonna be about $6,000, they said, to replace.
Okay, maybe we don't need to pull that now. We can talk about it during the capital reserve when we get to that point,
Okay.
as to how much we want to set aside for potential vehicle. I'm trying to get us away from taking a loan out to buy equipment. If we have a better budget and plan, we should be able to have the money to turn and purchase, not wasting money on interest, right?
Agreed.
Even though we get really low interest, we just need to flip that mentality, or at least that's one of my goals. Okay. What's the reimbursed for backhoe?
Insurance.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Oh, I wanted to make sure, but that was, last year it was reimbursed. I wanted to make sure that we received
Got it done.
reimbursement for
Okay.
it, so we can scratch that note out.
Do we need a number set aside for any repairs in there then?
What number? 437, 374?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need to know.
Do we want to put it back at the 15? Like we budgeted for 2019?
I guess if we know that rear end is 6,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say that number should come from them, they're gonna need to know what the equipment is needing.
Yeah, dollars.
Okay. And the signal maintenance, do we have a clue on what we want to put in there, or do we have an idea? Or do we just,
I needed to make sure, we had talked about a battery backup at Thistledown. And I can't remember for the life of me if that was ever approved or if it
Well,
was tabled.
Remember that it was because the question of, like, we don't have a contract and the dollar
Oh,
value.
that's right, it
the
was
insurance
Patrick
and,
with the,
you know, can we even, you know, because it was an insurance reimbursement, like, it would have been better off for them to pay them directly and leave us out of it. Because
not for
they're,
the cabinet, it wasn't insurance reimbursement. There's no battery backup
oh,
for
I thought we
Thistledown.
approved the battery system.
That's what I have to go back and look and see where, that's why I have
But whatever did become of that one,
question marks in there.
the damage?
I emailed Mary. Let's see what her response was.
Sorry to sidetrack, but I had that in my
That's
notes.
okay.
I had that in my notes for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious that, you know, moving forward. They didn't have prevailing wage in their quote.
I emailed her where we were at with the payment of it, and I can't find it.
You can get back to me or
Yeah.
whatever, it's fine.
I skipped on to page 11. Are you still on? Do we have more things on 10?
I was looking for the rental category.
Isn't that the contracts? Or is that, you mean rental of equipment?
Yeah, I thought we separated that.
I'm sorry, what number are you on?
Well, 10 or 11, I thought we separated the rental equipment category.
I do not see that.
out of contract.
Is that where it's being placed, or?
I can check. That's why I have the question mark there too.
Yeah, we should definitely separate that, because that's the easiest way to justify purchasing, you know, skid loader, etc.
I'll have a category added for just rentals. They just ordered crack sealing material, so that'll be on the next.
So when we contract people out, is that what the contracts is then? And we don't have the rentals
No,
in
that's
that?
in,
No, because winter maintenance, if we're using.
It's separate?
It's separate.
yeah.
That's under public works.
Oh, contract, I see.
Mhm.
Gotcha. So maybe that contract's 610 is
Rentals.
rentals, and we just need to have that more accurately described.
We do have the benches for the park, for Campbelltown replacement in there.
Who purchased those benches to begin with?
They were in the original bid, or the original document, the construction documents, that was per spec on the plan that was over there.
Yeah, but who bought them? The township bought them?
Yeah, the township would have paid for them.
Interesting. So employee benefits on page 12. I'm assuming those numbers come out better in October?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And the FICA, unemployment, retirement, and Medicaid or Medicare, those I can figure out now that I have the police salary figured out.
So the interfund transfers there,
Mm-hmm.
do we need to vote that those get done? When do we want to move that money?
That was the 40,000. You'll see other random ones that we weren't sure, so I usually wait till the end of the year to see if we want to make those transfers. The 750, the MS4 fund has already been set up. And
That
that's
one's
already
done.
before,
Okay.
right?
So just the traffic signal has not been right now.
Right.
So everything on page 13 gets more accurate as we move further in the calendar year.
Correct.
So we can fill those numbers in.
Yep.
And that should basically be an in and out. Although we do typically do a percentage to account for increase in cost for the electricity,
Right.
for the streetlights.
Yep.
We don't need to look at maps this year for any streetlights.
I swear I will not. Mm.
Do you have any more in you, or do we want to call it a night and
We're
do?
halfway and we're getting to stuff that doesn't have a lot of
numbers
Yeah,
yet, we don't have the
budgets
fire.
aren't in.
The one thing with the fire companies, and when we, on page 14, when Jen and I were going over this, we thought it would be, so everything's in one account, but there's a certain amount of money that's kept back as reserve. So we thought it would be really nice if we had sections that accounted for that reserve instead of just having the surplus there, saying, what the heck are you using the surplus for? Personally, I kind of felt like it was in previous years where our budget just had 1.5 million sitting and nobody knew what it was sitting for.
Well, we
So,
should, I mean, it may not have been reflected here, but I know that the lawn fire company numerous times has provided the budget.
It's all
For
accounted for, but
projection.
not the,
yes, but I thought it would be nice
No,
to
no,
see
yeah.
that on here.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, you have I don't even know what the numbers are right now without the spreadsheet in front of me. Say you have 150,000 in reserve. What are your plans for that? 50,000 of it is for a truck replacement in
Yeah,
2020, or not 2020, because that would be next year, but
no different than our capital reserve.
yeah,
That's
just to
kind of
see
where
it
we're
like
making sure
that.
that-
So Jenna sent an email asking if we could get numbers like that.
I sent these 2 pages, I sent 14 and 15 to each chief and asked them for their budgets along with the categories too.
Right. I mean, similar when Dan Braden was giving us those spreadsheets that said, in
Right.
2025, like we're in a negative area here if we don't raise the fire tax. So it would just be nice to have that accounted for so that way we could see again where we're at. But, so we'll get that added on to there
Yep.
once we get those numbers.
The traffic signal on page 16, that's another one of those transfers that have not been made. That's at the discretion of the board whether they want to place that money in there.
Are we stopping our page?
Let's stop.
Okay. What page?
Stop.
Well, let's go and say we stop before the fire companies, right?
12, 13, streetlights and fire hydrants, so 14 starts with the fire tax.
So let's start 14 with the fire tax, when we. Are we gonna do October workshop will be our next budget talk then? I don't know how much that's on the agenda for the regular board of supervisor meeting yet, but
We have 2 plans coming for approval.
okay.
Anybody object to like doing these during the day? I'm a bit sharper during the day.
I like days, but we tried to keep it at night so that we could get a greater attendance.
Looks about the same as the daytime.
All right. So
And I don't care if we do some of them, if we're gonna.
we just have to advertise them.
Yeah, if we're gonna do it here or there, it'd be nice to at least some, and I don't care, as long as it doesn't, you get me in here for 2 hours looking at this at night, I'm gonna lose interest.
Right, which is why I was suggesting we maybe
break.
stop now.
Take a break.
Okay, do we want to plan another day, a morning?
I don't know what's going on with Bill's father. have no idea.
I don't know what his
Anything at
emergency
all.
was, he didn't
Didn't elaborate.
allow, yeah.
But, he's usually available Thursdays, he had told me in the past.
Okay,
Well, I guess how quickly do you anticipate having much more information, because like I said, we're getting to the point of. there's not much
After
there.
October 10th, I'll have a lot of the insurance information, and then there's another, there's one for the workers' comp side. I'll get those numbers probably at around the 24th of October.
when did you ask the fire companies to have their numbers back?
I did, I'm not sure if I did, I think I said in anticipation of the October. Let me see.
Regular board of supervisor meeting?
Let me see what I
So
sent.
the workshop is the 23rd, right, yeah. Well, then it doesn't sound like there's much point in meeting prior to that, so maybe we can set it at that. How long ahead do we have to advertise?
We definitely need something during the day for you. I'm just kidding. Usually I'm the one tripping over my words.
To have their budget numbers to us for October 15th in preparation of the workshop meeting for that month.
Okay.
What I'm saying, I guess, is though, if we have the workshop on the 23rd, and if you're only getting the numbers the 10th and the 24th, is there going to be much more detail to be had prior to that?
No, I think, why don't we just keep the workshop, we'll keep it to an hour, and then wherever we're at, we can then
Address
do
it
a
from there.
daytime one if we need
If
to have
needed.
another. Because our goal would be to have something ready to advertise November, and then vote on December.
And remember, we get a little more time because it's the 12th till it's meeting
Yes.
because of the way the week falls. So we might be in good shape.
Okay, so then let's continue with the workshop. We'll try to keep it to an hour, so we don't get too fuzzy. Or else we'll just have to start printing this in bigger font with gray lines.
Yeah, something like that.
Gray lines.
Yeah. All right, let me see where my agenda is here.
Now that you want
DCED meeting, is it something that we need to go over tonight, or do you need any decisions from us?
Should be pretty brief,
Yeah,
Okay.
let's. I met with Ann Weaver tomorrow, her last name, and Kim Bracy. She was the former mayor of York, now works for DCED. This is in regard to the DCED study. The board had requested I make contact to study the Public Works Department and the admin side of the township. When I talked to, at our meeting today, they said we would fall under this, what they call a STAMP program, Strategic Management Planning Program, because we're not considered a distressed municipality, which is good. That's why she was surprised after I called her, after I sent the letter of intent, and then they did a little research on our township through the DCED website where we have to submit our financials every year. They were like, why are they calling? They're not in distress or anything. So she said that they do have a program that they could put together either a 3 or a 5-year, like a fiscal outlook type of thing. And included in that would be, they would talk to every representative or every employee in the township and just interview them, what their job is, what it includes. They would look at all the software, everything that we have basically in the township. But this is not a free program. They don't do, like they did, the police study is not a free study that they complete. You fill out the paperwork and you can be approved for a grant up to $200,000 match. So the township would have to outlay money to have this study done. I said, listen, how much does a normal study like this take? And she said it's usually around, make sure I had it written down here. I have the written book with me. She said it's not the 200,000.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah. She said she has seen usually about 30,000 up to 100,000 for the study, and then the township match would be the 15,000 if it's a $30,000 study. But the flip side of that, so when they do this study, when they look at everything, and in our 5-year fiscal program that they put together for us, if we've identified like software that's not working or not efficient, or items throughout the township that could help the process, what we're going through, that they would then match anything like the software. If it's $60,000 piece of software, they would pay $30,000, 50% match to that. So it's not a free study. Bottom line, it's not free. So it's just a matter of how much does the township want to get into this.
Okay, well, let me
digest.
read this over.
Yeah. That's why I kind of wanted to put it in your head tonight and then.
Yes. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry I missed it. I thought it was yesterday, or tomorrow, I mean.
Probably did.
No, it does, I don't know where the disconnect was, but whatever.
It was fairly quick, it wasn't, I don't know, I was expecting something different, I guess,
Okay.
based on the police, the study that was done.
Does anybody have anything for good and welfare? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Phil,
Oh,
Phil requests the meetings in the evening. You can get anything past Jack.
3 police cars.
So not quite as sharp.
all right. I heard a motion to adjourn from Jack. I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for attending. All right.